Hello, hello, good afternoon, good morning, good time of the day. As we fall back in America to the early 1700s, um, and maybe even sooner or later, further back, as we fall back this weekend by an hour, it feels like by millennia. Um, I'm Nick Perro. It's Banner and Backbone, and we are on Palantalk, episode 11, with a state of surveillance. And like I said, I'm Nick Perro, joined by my co-host and good friend and creator of the Firebrand Project, Shane Urich. Welcome, my friend. Welcome, brother. How are you?
Good. I'm excited, as we should all be excited to have Melissa Corrigan back, the super surveillance savant. Um, it's I don't know. Like you said, man, I feel like we're like tumbling backwards in time. I'm like some like Matrix. I'm just like I
Except every
I
place
was telling Nick before
instead
the
of
show.
misses.
I just read the entire transcript for Trump's 60-minute interview this morning, as I was prepping for the show, the Firebrand Report later today. And I mean, it's
See,
like,
this is
dude,
what
how
we
is this
do
real?
instead of having to let you guys do it. We ruin our mental health to
Yes,
read,
yes.
or Shane does to listen and read
I
Trump's
tried to listen. I
nauseating.
literally did. I was telling Nick, I'm like, I went 20 minutes on double speed, so about 10 minutes. And then I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't listen to him. And I'm like, I know there's a transcript. So I went and I read the transcript. It takes me 15 minutes. I mean, it's like a freaking 15-year-old is talking. I mean, like, he's so dumb. And now the dementia's there too. So he's like dumb and demented. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. I feel like we're flying back in time at the same time we're like
Hmm.
skyrocketing forward in time as we like have this idiot in charge who's being manipulated by everyone around him at this point. I think it's become very clear that like there's so many different interests pulling on basically relationships with him that are entirely manipulative. But one of those relationships certainly is this whole surveillance aspect and these tech companies leveraging relationships through the oligarchy, the brawligarchy, the technocracy, um, and that's a really big angle. And, I'm excited to have Melissa here today. I don't know if you guys also saw that I recently put out a huge article about these tech companies and what they're doing and just some of the implications of these relationships that are becoming very obvious within the Pentagon. How that pertains to surveillance. It's also important as well because who's in charge of these methods of surveilling and where that money is going to be and kind of the proprietary positioning of who gets to own the tech that our military is using in these relationships, I think is going to be really important going forward. And just how like they do it a certain way. You can see a pattern. And I mean, if you can identify the pattern of the business relationship and the system that is being used to do these things, it makes this a lot more obvious. And it just takes time to study these people because I literally feel like I study these people. I'm like, how do you work? And the more I do, the more I've looked at these people. Like, there's so much to talk about today, but I'm already monologuing. So, Melissa, welcome. Welcome to
And so,
Palantalk.
yeah, with
Hello,
that, let's
hello.
welcome Melissa Corrigan. Before you jump in, Melissa, I'm going to cut you off for a second. Can you introduce yourself for everyone? I know everybody probably knows who you are, but can you reintroduce yourself just so everybody knows who you are and why we're talking about this a state of surveillance with you specifically and how it impacts all of us?
Yes, I am Melissa Corrigan with Counter Story Media, and I live here in Norfolk, Virginia, and right here in Little Norfolk is a very big court case that's been going on because two citizens sued the city over the use of flock safety cameras. And so, what has happened with that lawsuit has become rather explosive as the U.S. DOJ has entered the chat with a statement of interest in the case, and it the case has taken quite a turn. And yeah, so I've been digging into all the court documents on that. I've been downloading every court document in the docket. And once the 1A Collective, which is a website that I'm starting on foreign soil, once that is up, we're going to be uploading the entire court docket for this flock safety case. Because I think it's important for transparency. I think it's important that everyone see if they're going to watch our comings and goings, then we need to watch their fucking comings and goings, and we need to see everything that they want to keep hidden from us.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start is transparency, specifically about what's going on. And that's something, Shane, you and I talk a lot about is transparency, and you write a lot about transparency and the lack thereof on the tech side. So, Melissa, also, before we get any further, this ties into one of our least favorite people and our least favorite companies, and that is Palantir and Peter Thiel. Ties directly back to him. Shane likes to talk about him. There's always it's like 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon is now 2 degrees of Peter Thiel. And at least with 2 degrees of Kevin Bacon, or 5 degrees, whatever it was, of Kevin Bacon was fun. This is deadly. And so, Melissa, can you talk about how flock safety relates to Peter Thiel, or Flock Security or Flock Safety or whatever their full company name is, how they relate to Peter Thiel, and and then why specifically they're interested in Flock and what it is really good at doing, and why Palantir wants to own it.
I just want to add really quick, because you said this, and
Flock
Flock is a founders fund company, by the way. So it's already Thiel funded. So even if like people are like talking, oh, he's trying to like acquire it, he already owns it. If it's founders fund, it means he has significant influence. It's like he's on the board, right? So
he was asked to leave. Like nobody's really talking about what happened in that incubator between him and Flock. And he was asked to leave the incubator when he was getting too close to Flock. So yeah, it's a lot of weirdness there. So Peter Thiel was part of the Founders Fund, which was the incubator that launched Flock Safety. Flock Safety is based out of Atlanta, Georgia. It's a tiny little nondescript company, except with their very big implications. So what they do is they produce automated license plate reader cameras. So if you live in a town where you've seen these big black cameras go up around intersections or particular neighborhoods, because what we're starting to obviously notice is that these are congregated around low income and predominantly black neighborhoods. We've started noticing that as we're doing the mapping in Norfolk. And so I would surmise that it's probably the same across other cities where these have been implemented. So Flock Safety is not just a vendor of cameras. They have a dashboard called Nova, and that dashboard collects multiple streams of information. It collects the data from the automated license plate readers, but it also is capable of collecting basically any other type of data you want to put into it, even up to and including social media profiles. So the Nova dashboard is already positioned to create sort of a composite profile for individuals. So, Flock repeatedly wants to state in court that they're just an automated license plate reader, when that's absolutely not true. And so here in Norfolk, 2 of the citizens have sued. Just over the course of the lawsuit, we've discovered they've lied. Like, they've lied outright in court. They initially, the state law here in Virginia, it was passed just back in June, that because of everything with the automated license plate readers. So the state law in June that was passed in June says that you can only keep the data for 30 days. So in the process of court discovery, the judge requested the tracking data on the actual plaintiffs, on the 2 people that are suing the city. And they were both tracked. One was tracked 536 times, and the other was tracked 816 times. And she doesn't even live in the city. She works in the city. So simply by nature of the neighborhood that she works in, she's been tracked that much. But the interesting thing, and something that the judge did point out, was like, how are you able to give me that information if you dumped it after 30 days? So like they were already caught in court, violating the law. And their excuse was that because some of that monitoring did happen before June, that law wasn't in place, and whatever. It's semantics. We know that they are not following state law or federal law. A few months ago, a woman in Texas was tracked across state lines from Texas to another state to procure an abortion and back, and she was tracked. Over 83,000 block cameras were used in tracking her across state lines. And that would require a federal warrant under normal circumstances. To surveil someone across state lines would require a federal warrant. That was not their jurisdiction. And to date, nothing has happened to the police department that engaged in that search. And that woman has been arrested. So,
they did arrest her.
Right. So we're at a point where
how long has she been arrested?
The precedent, she was released, but the fact that they were able to even secure a warrant for her arrest based off of illegal surveillance, like that's what we're talking about.
Right.
And so as I've totally dug into the Flock situation, it's really become apparent to me. I call it a mesh network of surveillance that's happening. So underneath Flock, you have private companies that are also engaging with Flock. It started with FedEx was one of the first ones. So FedEx trucks have cameras on them. Not all FedEx trucks, but you can see them when you're in traffic. If they have a black camera on the back of the truck, they're capturing license plate data and sharing that. Home Depot, Lowe's are two private entities that have jumped on. Home Depot shared that information with ICE, which is how ICE showed up every morning to pick up migrant workers, because Flock was providing them the surveillance to do that without a warrant, all of it. Because part of the situation when you have vendors like Flock will sell to individuals. And they have sold to individuals who run HOAs. So just in our city, we have 3 HOAs running Flock cameras, and they literally just assign a person in an HOA, just a dude like Craig down the street, can now monitor the comings and goings of your neighborhood as he's on the contract with Flock.
That enables rapists and predators and abusers to just,
which is
without warrant, freely monitor whoever they want.
Which is not
That's
just
disgusting.
That's not just a maybe. That's literally happened. That's happened within law enforcement. Law enforcement officers have used the Flock system to stalk ex-girlfriends, ex-wives. Like that's already happened. And here in Norfolk, part of the situation in the lawsuit that is so egregious to me, the day I saw those cameras go up, I tried to find some information about them, and I could find nothing. So a few days, like less than a week after the camera went up outside my neighborhood, our local NPR ran a story on it where they interviewed the chief of police, and they asked him, what's the data plan on this? Like, how long are you holding the data? Who's using the data? We're writing it. So they launched, anybody in IT knows how fucking bonkers it is to launch surveillance cameras with no data policy or plan in place from day one. So ultimately, there were 4 months where there was no policy or plan in place, where law enforcement officers were accessing the cameras. We don't know what for. They don't need a warrant. The only thing they need is a box to enter cause. And like, that's what happened in Texas with the woman. The officer literally entered in the box for cause, had an abortion, search for female. Like, they can write whatever in that little box. So we're talking about Flock, right? And it's already like really overwhelming living in an area being served by Flock. Okay, so I'm sitting at my usual little coffee shop, which is in the next town over. And something about investigative journalists, like we're nosy as fuck. Like I always watch people and listen, right? So next to me, there were a table of obviously slick corporate types, and two of them were wearing polo shirts with Axon on it. So I was like, what's that about? So while I'm sitting there, I'm Googling what is. And Axon is just like Flock, except Axon is a little bit slicker because Axon, they do have equipment that they sell, but they much more rely on private surveillance cameras that are already security cameras that you have. Axon just takes all of that data from pre-existing security cameras, and they also have a dashboard, Fusus, and Flock plugs into Fusus. When I say a mesh network, we're talking about so many different companies that are all plugging into these extremely powerful dashboards, and most of them are feeding back to Peter Thiel in some way, shape, or form. So,
Yeah, I mean, so if you don't mind, I just like you've just like you've dropped a lot of stuff. It's
yeah,
all very important, but I wanna go back. I want to touch on some things because I
yeah,
think everything you just laid out, there's a common core here. The issue is a black hole, or not even black hole, a void of regulation, an entire void of regulation. Me and Nick talked about regulation last week. Okay. Accountability, regulation, but the reality is that you're looking at a court case, right? The judge is like, why do you have this data? Well, the obvious answer is, okay, we can only hold it 30 days. That doesn't mean I can't export it to the cloud and hold it forever. Like,
right.
but the whole thing, I think that I'm starting to, is where I've landed. And I think everything you said just makes it so abundantly clear. Our legal system, while great in very niche regards, is entirely incapable of keeping up with the rapid evolution of technology and the regulation that would be required to effectively regulate these things as they evolve in real time. And that's one of the things that, like, on top of that, we even if it was working flawlessly, right? Even if there wasn't rampant corruption within the judicial system, and even if the executive branch wasn't entirely enabling this kind of behavior, even if they would struggle to keep up with this because of the speed at which this is being done. And these judges, like, there needed to be a team of people within the federal government, probably under, I don't know, like the Consumer Protection Bureau was probably where I would have put these people, okay? Or some form of a data protection agency that would have to be constantly monitoring these companies to
Right.
ensure that they are being compliant. Um, and and like when Biden did have an executive order in place, okay, because there's no way they could get Congress to do anything. And mind you, that executive order was by a lot of ways insufficient, but it did at least curtail the use of these platforms to a certain degree. And one of the first things he did was repeal that. Like, one of the first things he did was repeal that executive order on the limitations of AI, what it can be trained on, what it can scrape, etc. There's nothing legal, like, in place to stop this. Like, it just doesn't exist. Like, and that's really the end all be all of it is there. And it sucks because I sit here and and I love, like, just to be clear, I love this court case. I think it's showing a lot of things, but I also, like, am a big believer in, like, just be honest. I don't think this is going to go anywhere because I think that I've already seen in the last week, you're looking at the FCC approve some crazy shit. Pfizer just got some other company. They purchased it's like a weight loss pill company last week. Okay. And it got approved a week early. And there was a higher offer from a European company. But the FCC went straight to Pfizer and they pushed it through for them like that. Right. So like, you have so much influence in the federal government at this point where, like, just to be entirely candid here, it's non-functional, it's non-viable. There is no regulation. It's gone. And the judges can order whatever they want and they don't have to listen. Like, and SCOTUS just said, you know what? They overruled the lower courts again. Tariffs are all him. I was reading it this morning. Like, there's there's no accountability. There is no regulation. And like, talking about what you're saying is so important. And I think the court case discovery, there are certain things that come with that are valuable, because you can still get more information through discovery than maybe you wouldn't before. But in terms of like accountability, there will be no accountability other than what we manage to put in ourselves. And I think that it's hard. I don't have a great answer for you guys. Like, what do you do? At this point, I'm like, you know what, like, fuck them. Like, I walk around my, my fingers up, because I know you're watching me. Like, it's impossible to get away from these things. Like 800 times in driving, like and it's hard, because like, what do you do? There's nothing to be done. And that's where I hate to say this to you guys, but like, I want all the viewers, I want you to understand, there is nothing to be done, because you have been failed by your government. They have failed to regulate these things, and corporations are going to do this to you. That's a fact. And the only way we change these things is through legislating, and through real legislators being in Congress, so that they can
both state and federal.
Yeah, because even the states aren't prosecuting. Like, why is the state not prosecuting? Like, we've seen people have been calling for the states to prosecute. Like, they say, okay, well, we can put ICE people in jail, then fucking do it. Like, do it. What is the disconnect here? Like, you either say it and you threaten, like, they're still suing. Like, it's like, we're screaming over here at Banner and Backbone, there needs to be substantive action. Like, no more idle threats. Like, no one has held him in contempt yet. Like, I remember months ago, they're like, they might hold him in criminal contempt. That's what's going to happen. They're getting closer to criminal contempt. They're not going to fucking do it. They're not going to do it. Same with these companies.
Right. Yeah. I feel the same as you. Like, I'm at this point, it's, I don't know. I don't want to sound too, because now you have, so I figured a way out of my neighborhood. My son showed me like sort of a little back road that goes around, and so I was like, okay, cool. I have a way out of my neighborhood where I don't have to pass a flock camera. So that's what I was doing. I've been going out this little back alley of my fucking neighborhood. And then they plug the fucking Ring cameras in to the flock dashboard, and my across the street neighbor's Ring cameras pointed at my front door. So I'm like, you know what can we do? I've seen people, there's like tape you can purchase, like some kind of special tape to put over your license plate. You can do things like that. But you're right. If the power, the entities of power are not going to protect the people, what can each of us do against a mass surveillance network like this? I mean, it's so incredibly difficult to even attempt to extract yourself from where you are. And law enforcement loves this shit. And I had somebody like pose the question to me because they were like, you just don't, you must support crime. You just don't like law and order, blah, blah, blah. And
this
my
is
daughter,
crime. It's a crime right now.
I don't know if you guys remember, but like a few months ago, my daughter walked away from our house. She was 5. And she walked away. She was gone for 20 minutes, and the whole neighborhood came together and brought her home. And it was very cool. But somebody said, when your daughter walked away, if God forbid the worst had happened, somebody had picked her up, wouldn't you want those cameras to? And I was like, but that's the fundamental problem is that you're not using it entirely for law enforcement. Of course, nobody would have a fucking problem with it if you had strict regulations in place. Other nations around the world are using similar technology, but they have strict laws and policies in place that actually protect citizens. And you don't have that. You guys are just rolling out not just Flock, not just Axon. There's dozens of these companies across the United States that are rolling out without, you're right, without a universal, this should be a federal regulation at this point. This should be coming down from the federal government controlling the use of these products. And they're not. They're just not. So how much more can they tell us? They don't give a fuck about us.
Yeah. Well, also, we do have federal regulations that should be able to handle this already. It's called the Constitution. We have a constitution
Right.
that says you have the right to privacy and unreasonable search and seizure, and you have the right to privacy in this country. We've been convinced that we don't. Like that's
Right.
not what the Constitution actually means. Like, I'm tired of being told by people what it means, like what words mean that we can clearly see and read, and then being told that they don't actually mean those things and that it's all a fucking lie. Like,
But
we
you
have the
guys
right to
remember?
privacy.
Do you
Or
remember
we
the
should.
old guys of the old Republican Party? Let them put a camera on a World War II's vet's house. Like, they would have lost their fucking mind.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm super confused, like how the conservative party lost like that piece of it. My granddad was a World War II vet. He was a Reagan conservative. But if there had been a camera anywhere on his fucking road recording his comings and goings, he would have ripped it down with his bare hands. Like, so that's where I'm confused, where they've utterly brainwashed that like section of hyper independent, small government, get the fuck off my property conservatives. Like, where are those guys?
Well, I think like there's like it's an important point you're making, and I think that I always go back to this quote, and it's come from a lot of different people, but words are the lens through which we choose to shape reality. Okay, it's very much so that the word conservative has been redefined intentionally so that it can be used to justify the actions of these wealthy people. And it doesn't like that they're not like me and Nick, we're conservative. What we're arguing for is conservatism. We want
Right.
the government to mind its own fucking business. And I would consider a small government a government that provides essential services, the socialism aspect. I think we all want the government to stay the fuck out of our business, provide people with health care, affordable housing, food, and basic necessities, to invest in clean energy so that our environment doesn't fucking kill us. Like, those are the things that government should be doing, not all this other shit. Not being conservative. The stuff that the Republicans are fighting for, they have been fighting for. They have convinced people that a word means something it doesn't, that being surveilled is to be free. It is Orwellian as fuck, guys. Like, it's double speak, okay? Like, there is no way around it. They have convinced people that supporting a surveillance state is patriotic, that stripping their own civil liberties, supporting the eradication of their own civil liberties is freedom. Like, it is that backwards. That is where we are right now. Like, that is the narrative. It's, you don't get to be give us your freedom, give us your money, enjoy poverty, and that's freedom. So, like, I saw a commercial the other day on YouTube, because I was watching on my TV, so I can't skip them. But it's like this, like, we millionaires, we have it hard too. And I'm like, what the fuck?
No, the
Like,
fuck you don't.
what the fuck?
You get
Like,
the fuck
do
outta
you?
here.
they're literally pushing propaganda to be like, normalize millionaires. Like, oh, millionaires have it hard too. You can't afford groceries. I gotta manage 7 properties. My life is so hard in my fucking fancy ass kitchen. Like, seriously, like, the level of of propaganda, of all of this. It's like, you know, my eyes are open. Like Nick's eyes are open. Your eyes are open.
Yeah.
But if your eyes aren't open, like we have to understand that propaganda works because they use it because it works.
So
They
this
use
is where it
propaganda
gets this
because
is
it
where it
works.
gets to be a messaging war. And part of what I've been doing, I'm now on another 30-day ban from Nextdoor because I won't stop fucking talking about this, because there are cities, to give a glimmer of hope, there are a handful of cities across America who have rejected these systems. Denver among them. They said that the city voted and said, we don't want the flock cameras, take them down. In Evanston, Illinois, they told Flock to take them down. The citizens voted, they came together and said, we don't want them. We didn't know what this was. We don't want them. All right. So the city tells Flock to take them down. Flock is like refusing. So the city sent out people to put bags over the camera until they would take them down. And then the city caught Flock employees taking the bags off. Like, what? And then on top of that, I just read like 3 days ago. So they decided the people don't want them. They finally ordered them to take them down. They got them taken down. Then they see more. So they start digging. How about the Flock is leasing poles and putting them up on their property so they can why do you want to surveil those people so bad if the people didn't? Because then they argued in court in Norfolk that they're just a vendor. We're just a vendor. That's not how vendors behave.
No, vendors only vend products.
I'm going to
Vendors
sell
don't.
this to you, and then I'm going to take it
Yeah.
back if you don't want it. That's it.
Yeah. They don't then buy the land to put their product up and refuse to take it down when the populace has said, take it the fuck down. And
Right.
the populace has done everything in their power peacefully to get you to take it down, to include covering them. Like, that's a big old sign that, and then you get caught doing it, they should be sued into oblivion.
Right.
Because
they are now leasing buildings in cities that don't want them so they can place camera, like an empty building. They just lease a building to put a camera up. What the fuck do you want that for? If you're not doing what you swear to God you're not doing, you know what I mean? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and mix that with the new ability to monitor social media and unregulated access to pretty much any data in this country, because what most people don't, or some people like to conveniently leave out and omit about this, is that the Dobbs decision, Roe v. Wade, was about data privacy and personal data privacy. And when that was overturned, we all lost the right to, or the perceived right to, data privacy and what was on the books. So a simple thing we could do is restore the right to full data privacy for a human being and just leave it at that. Every human being.
Yeah, I mean, like, and the other thing is, like, you know, Melissa, why the fuck are they putting on a building? I mean, the answer, you know, ironically, is as simple as, you know, it's especially, again, like, my whole thing is there's a bigger picture here, and we have to be very aware of the big picture, because all of these things in isolation, they don't make any fucking sense. But there's an emerging trend here. In this article I just wrote, and I'm going to connect two things here for everybody. Okay. They are effectively setting up to control the entirety of the United States drone infrastructure. Okay. The Palantir, but not just Palantir, Thiel, through the Thiel sphere of influence. His primary vehicle for this is Palantir. He has made it the hub of his government, you know, influence and control by making it indispensable in terms of government intelligence, providing services that, you know, allow the United States military to aggregate data, make these accurate missile strikes, have coordinated and efficient systems, providing Gotham and Foundry to ISD, DEA, all that, right? But here's the thing. What you now are starting to see with this information that is coming out, with Doge going into the Pentagon, with the explicit instruction to expedite drone development, the development of these drone programs, is you are seeing the creation of a feedback loop that would create a monopsony within the privatized influence of Peter Thiel. All these companies, and read the article. I'll give it to Nick to link because it's too much for me to go into in depth here. But there is something called the United States National Drone Association. The entire board itself is chaired by Thiel associates, Thiel loyalists, and all of these guys also happen to be former U.S. Special Operations Command individuals, all deeply involved in the special forces, historically in the Pentagon, in positions of power. So not only have these people sold out their country, they've also betrayed the values of the United States military and are now acting to use their influence within the Pentagon to basically funnel all of the DoD contracts for these drones back through the feedback loop that would give a Thiel-controlled entity, the United States National Drone Association, the ability to guide the distribution of contracts. Okay, and then you have all of the drone infrastructure under their control. You pair that with all of these founders-funded other Thiel entities like Flock, and then they feed that data into that same loop. So you have the surveillance sphere within, and I guarantee you that if we apply the same logic that I go through in that article, and I talk about the way he goes into it, and there's basically 4 steps where he will go through each of his primary goals, and in doing that, and I'll like pass it to you really quick, Nick, because I want to go and find those 4 things and just read them to you guys, because I think it'll help make sense. I don't want to read the whole article, but it's just like a concept here. But I'm gonna go grab that really quick while I'm passing the ball to Nick or Melissa.
Yeah. And so, real quick, a monopsony, and Shane, you may have just described this too. I totally blanked out. Is the control of the means of production and the means of distribution. It is a monopoly on both ends, where you have no option other than that single monopoly. It is a true monopoly. They just like to call it monopsony because it adds a cool, funky name to it, and yada, yada, yada. But yeah, it's all about Peter Thiel owned companies and his thirst for power and influence and control over military tech.
Dude, you nailed it. So you just said 2 of the 4 things. So when we look at anything Peter Thiel is doing, there's 4 primary goals. And I encourage each and every one of you to take these 4 things, because these 4 tools, these 4 goals, it is the key to deciphering the strategy that Thiel uses to exert control over these things. And there's 2 things I want to talk about. So there's the 5, there's like the feedback loop itself, but then there's the 4 primary goals. And this is the first step. You want to look, because the first goal is influence. How are they going to influence whatever industry, system they want? The second is control. You're looking for how are they establishing control. The third is always enrichment. How are they benefiting? How are they accumulating wealth? And the fourth and final is insulation. How are they closing this system so that they cannot be challenged in this loop? So to take that a step further, you have the actual methodology they use here. The first being policy generation. Okay, that's usually what Doge is, or lobbying in the case of the drone industry. You have these former SOCOM operators, these people in command within the Pentagon that have significant influence. These are the special forces guys. These are the guys who are supposedly the best of the best. People sit and listen when these guys say something. And then you have all of these, policies they've generated. They do this through advocacy and validation. So you have these people, they don't go in with Doge. They go in with these policies that come out of these think tanks like the United States National Drone Association, which then you have implementation and execution, which is Doge actually going in and requesting privately held United States data that was collected under a program called the Replicator Program, started in 2023, That data is all owned by the Pentagon. It is all independently funded by the Pentagon. So you have Doge going in and getting data from the United States government that is owned by the people to then funnel back to the private drone industry so they can use that research to skip the R&D process and accelerate their own programs, taking advantage of research that was publicly funded by our tax dollars to profit. And then you have the commercial benefit. That's your commercial benefit coming out of Doge. Finally, you have the reinforcement through policy generation. And then you close the loop. So once they've effectively gone through the loop, they will remake more policy that they have established advocacy and validation. They are in a position where they have control and they will insulate through more policy generation. But you can see this cycle. Apply this to every industry and you will find one, your first look is Founders Fund. Who's owned, who's founder funded? Who's a Teal fellow? You'll find it everywhere. It's nuts. I mean, it's like everybody in these groups, but there's a genuine pattern because we've talked about this. Nick mentioned this. Teal's always 2 to 3 degrees removed. He hates to be there. He hates to be looked at. He hates to be seen. He's the shadow puppet master. And it's through loyalists and people who are indebted to him. To the Teal Fellowship, the way it works is you drop out of college. And he gives you money. And then you do with that money whatever you were going to do. But you are entirely dependent on Teal from that point on because you are leaving your education. You're selling your future for him to fund you right now to make money. But if you want to do anything else, you dropped out of college.
Yeah.
So that's the loop, right? That's basically at the end of my thing. They're tying all this data back into that. So they're going to have control of all of the drone manufacturing and all of the programming, everything that goes into that, all the design. But they're also feeding back the data loop. So now they have all of the surveillance available as well. They can factor that into their design because they already have control over these systems. So they have all of the resources they need to make the optimal programs, the optimal drones for real-time surveillance of citizens in the United States of America by programming those drones and getting them on that dashboard you're talking about, Melissa, with AI programs. Like the stuff they're looking at, these are dropper drones. Like these are the things they're using to kill people in Ukraine. Like do not be surprised when you have drones flying around dropping tear gas on protesters because that is what they're designing. They're designing, the idea that like the day they drop a fucking stun grenade on a suspected terrorist is coming.
Yes, absolutely.
If this loop closes because they use predictive profiling, which means this shit's not going to fucking be right. Like they're going to drop tear gas on the wrong people. God forbid they actually use fucking something that could harm someone,
Okay, I have something for you.
Let
me find in my notes.
I think I've been smacking on the table long enough.
Part of what I've been doing is digging through the NDAA. Nuts. It's fucking nuts. Okay, to your point, on page 629 of the NDAA, which has passed. This is now our military budget and legalities going forward because it has passed. On page 269, they're going to begin a pilot study on the psychological effects of and mental health impacts of combat remotely piloted aircraft operations. So they're going to do a study for a year to see how bad does it fuck with drone operators to remotely murder people.
Yep. Yeah. How detached can you be? You have all these video game kids, right? Who like kill people through a screen. They want to take these 20-year-olds who are entirely desensitized to violence, put them behind a drone screen, put them behind a drone headset, and see if they can get them to just kill people and not feel anything about it. And to be honest with you, I think the answer is absolutely, because you can see this in Ukraine. You've got these 20-year-olds who they pull out of, their gamer hole and they fly drones and you watch them sit there and kill people. And like, I watched these interviews. I just watched an 1.5 hour long interview about Pokrovsk and these guys. They just, it's like, they're like, I just don't feel anything. Like, I mean, like, I know they're dying, but like, it's like, it's different. This is all like, and they're doing a study for a reason. Like they want to see what it does to these people.
And
Well,
who do you
and one
think
of the
they're going to
things,
test that pilot program on?
well, I think there's two places they're going to try and test that pilot program in. And Melissa, you and I are probably going to talk about this some tomorrow on our vet talk about makings of another USS Cole. Is I think they're going to literally test pilot this pilot program in Venezuela. And they're going to test pilot it in US cities because they've already said we have to train like we're at war in those dangerous cities, which just meant any city pretty much and anywhere now. Is we're going to start seeing US drones, military drones, much more prevalently in the skies in the US. Even if you don't see them, they're going to be there.
Right.
And
I
they'll
don't know
test over
what they're
Canada if they can get away with it, and over Mexico if they can get away with it too. Because why wouldn't they?
So I don't know what their timeline on this, like all of this is. One of my close friends, her nephew is a drone operator for the military, and they were having a conversation, and she said something about people organizing a resistance, organizing some pushback against this regime. And she said, but you can't even talk about that stuff or you'll have men in black at your door. And she said her nephew laughed and said, oh, we don't need to send men. We'll just hit them with a drone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fly an FPV into a building with a mortar shell on it, boom. Like I cannot begin to I really, because I watch probably too much GoPro footage of what real combat in Ukraine, uncensored. That's just me. I want to see and understand what's going on because it's coming, and I cannot begin to describe to you how fucking horrifying it is. This is the first war where I will never experience exactly what Nick or Melissa did when they were in a war zone. I will never be able to experience that. But I can visually see these guys laying in a ditch from their perspective, hearing the bzzz of a drone, a explosion, and then a bunch of guys around you fucking screaming in pain and bleeding out and dying. Okay. They can do this without seeing a singular fucking person. This is it's unbelievable. 70 to 80% of casualties in Ukraine are FPV drones hitting people. The entirety of this conflict is drone on you can't fight traditionally. They don't need to. That's what they're starting to learn is being a person. Their infantry is in so much trouble because if they're caught out, you're done. You're done. You can't move. You can't move from a position unless it's nighttime. If you're surrounded and they're able to operate drones within 15 kilometers on either side, that means that if your position itself is within 15 kilometers of a gray zone or where they are, you still can't move. If they really roll this shit out, they really do it. I'm not kidding. And they say, you know what, curfew, martial law, and you step outside your house, they will drop a fucking grenade on your ass. They will be able to do it like that. Oh, flock camera triggered, sector, blah, 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 dispatching drone from, area, alpha, whatever. And within 5 minutes, you've got an FPV over your head. Go back in your house, or we're going to drop this tear gas canister on your head. Citizen, go back in your house. That is so, I can see it. I can see the execution. I can see how it would be done. And the craziest thing is they want this process entirely privatized. And they want it all being sold to the military, but owned privately, which means the very capacity to execute this program would be entirely within the technocratic, techno-fascist business influence sphere And that's real. I cannot begin to stress how real that is.
Right. And that's what, and because the reason they're keeping so much of it privatized is because government entities are held back by some form of regulation and constitutional precedents, and these private companies are not. So if you keep it privatized, you skirt around all of those, like Flock is doing with the Fourth Amendment case. It's not the Fourth Amendment because technically it's a private company that gave us this data. FedEx gave me the data. So FedEx can't violate your Fourth Amendment because they're not a law enforcement entity. So, like, that's the way they're doing it. And I mean, it's common sense. We can all say, okay, but at the end of the day, you still surveilled me without a warrant. Like, just because you got a vendor to do it but it doesn't matter. That's the legal loopholes that they're finding to fly those little drones through.
Nick, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, well, living from having worked in the tech field, um, and understanding how they like it's a race to the bottom for ethics and morality and a race to the top for who can be the most cutthroat and get the most like data stolen basically as possible and enrich the company the most. That's all they care about. And so like the idea of tech companies who at least two of the four wealthiest people in America are own some of those tech companies, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. They want to parcel out the US. They want to get rid of the Constitution, where Elon Musk would then be able to be, say, the dictator or the president or whatever they wanted to call themselves. But they want fiefdoms, and they want to use this surveillance technology and this type of pilot program, literal pilot programs, to see how far they can go. You can, and Shane, you said you can imagine it, you can see it. Yeah. Has anyone ever watched RoboCop or
Dread.
Terminator or Dread or Judge Dredd or let's see here, any dystopian
Minority Report.
Minority Report,
Elysium back in there always.
Elysium, like
it's
always.
like,
Elysium's so fucking great.
It's
such a
Elysium.
good movie.
It's just Elysium. Like, dude, they literally think they're gonna go. They all like have movie night, like, every month, and all the oligarchs and the billionaires, they like get a movie theater, and all the tech bros come in and they're doing their Hitler salute, handshakes, and whatever the hell they do. Drinking some adrenochrome, or Peter Thiel brings his kid and they all get infusions out of his son to stay young, or whatever the fuck they do. And they watch like Elysium, or they watch Star Wars. They're like, dude, the Empire's so cool. Like, I want to be just like Palpatine. Or oh, dude, it's Sauron Saturday. Let's go hype up our boys in Mordor. Like this is like they are inspired by supervillains. They are inspired by this. They watched the media. They watched all of these shows, which to normal people are warnings against tyranny and warnings against, oligarchy and just people being evil. And they're like, dude, we could totally do this. Like, it's the inverse, right? They're like, we should like do what Smog did. We could just take all the gold and hoard it in the mountain, and we'll hollow out the government, which is where all the dwarves were. We'll kill them all, and we'll live in their city, and we'll steal all the gold, because that's what they get when they watch these fucking movies. Is they get the entire
they like being
thing.
The bad guy.
Someone's saying a claim for what? Oh, I'm being facetious, Glenn. I'm saying I doubt I don't know what the fuck they do. But my point is that they are, they consume this media, and that's what they want. They want the opposite out of it. Like, do they actually Hitler salute handshake? Fucking maybe. Who knows what Zuckerberg does when he sees Bezos? Like, or not Peter Thiel and Stephen Miller when they hang out. Like, maybe they hug and Hitler salute. Like, maybe they got their own things. Like, who knows?
Like, they've got there's some weird shit that these people do, and I just started replaying one of the more recent Wolfenstein games just for shits and giggles.
Sure.
Because who doesn't enjoy that type of game in this type of moment? And that's what they want, though. Like, they want that little breakdown. Hunger Games too, another good
Yes.
Totally.
analogous.
Oh, we're
movie and
absolutely
pop
going into the
culture.
Hunger Games, literally.
Yeah, is Hunger Games. They want that type of system where there is a capital that is isolated from the rest of the world. Doesn't have to be in DC. Yeah, they're building the little penis palace there, but they could move it somewhere else.
PP bunker.
Yeah, they could do PP bunker or Epstein's bunker.us or Epstein's bunker.gov and find themselves at their own little Epstein bunker that they've built for themselves. Is just like, that's what they want. They
But here's
want
what
a
I want to see.
dystopian end.
Here's what I want to see. Do you guys remember the show BattleBots? You remember?
Probably.
You remember? What
Probably.
they built these little robots that beat each other up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And there were robots that had saws on them. Like the point was to destroy the other little robot thing. So people are out there that know how to build these things. See, this is what happened when Flock put their cameras up in Norfolk. With us being Norfolk, almost immediately people ran their cars into those fucking things to knock them down. But unfortunately, they were pursued by law enforcement and they were forced to pay. And now we know that it's $6,000 per unit to pay to have the unit replaced. But if you just have a little battle bot with a saw that cuts that motherfucker down at the base, there's no license plate on that. There's no, the camera doesn't even trigger, right?
Rig and
Why
FPV
are we not
drone.
doing this?
The original
Rig and
drone
FPV
warfare.
The black can of spray paint on the solar panel.
Yes.
Yeah, a little
Right,
3D
and
printer to
That's the
create a
energy
little
that
spray
I
can.
want to see.
Yeah, like,
And that's a hypothetical, by the way. I'm not saying that anyone should do any of those things. All I'm saying
absolutely not.
is that, like, there are things that a person who maybe is concerned about their safety could hypothetically do. I'm not endorsing any particular type of behavior. I'm just saying that people in a position where they feel unsafe, that is something they might do.
Right.
I also, like, we never advocate for violence in any way.
Absolutely.
We advocate for peaceful and patriotic, and that's what you need to remember is peaceful and patriotic. But hypotheticals, there are hypothetical situations that people ponder all the time. Like, hypothetically, somebody could screen print a little device that clicks the top of a spray can with a little sensor that you put on a little
Mavic drone.
Little drone like that flies
But
around.
here's the thing. Like, we've talked about a lot of scary stuff this hour, and what I see is that
I think
and
this Glenn guy's
I'm like
fraud.
really
I don't know what's up with this
confused
dude.
about this person that says that cutting down a
not.
camera is violence. I just need to, like, push back on that. That camera is not a fucking person, you moron. That's not violence to cut down a camera that is surveilling you against constitutional precedents. So, like, the fact that there's someone in our chat giving personhood to a camera is such an enormous fucking red flag. Like, grow a set of balls, dude. Glenn Neff, grow a set of fucking balls. Okay. That's what I need you to do, because a camera isn't a person, and cutting down a camera is not violence. So we need to be, like, super fucking clear in our language right now, because pussies like Glenn Neff are the type of people that piss me off in America right now, because we have two types of people. When the news broke that Ring cameras are being fed into Flock, there are two types of people in America. One type of person went to their front door, took their Ring camera off, and disassembled it with a fucking hammer. And then you have people that left their Ring cameras up because the convenience of being able to see their Amazon package delivered is more important to them than the surveillance of their neighbors. Okay? You're a pussy if that's your take on it. If you want to leave your Ring camera up, I'm sorry, I just got a little bit heated, because implying violence is cutting down a camera is absurd. That's objectively absurd. And that's how we are where we are today. If you ask any of these broligarchs if that's violence, they would laugh at you because their violence is actual violence upon human beings. Jesus fucking Christ.
It also...
You go off. Go off.
Whoa.
Wow.
We
All
are
right,
not
Glenn.
gonna just...
Goodbye.
Bye, bud. We're not gonna just insult
Like, just to be clear, I asked
Melissa
Glenn,
and call her
Glenn,
a
I asked you
dingbat.
in the chat as well to clarify your position. Instead, if you're just gonna ad hominem attack, like that's very unhelpful. Like, just to be clear, like, yes, like
He's gone
Melissa
for
maybe
everybody else.
Yeah. Melissa may be passionate, but like what you said, and I also interpreted what you said in the same way she did. So please understand that you're not, that's not acceptable to just ad hominem. Like like maybe it might upset your ego a little bit to have someone come at you like that. But if you want to maintain any credibility, you got to come back with like clarify your position. That's why I messaged you. Could you please clarify? And by choosing not to clarify and ad hominem, sorry, bud, like,
Yeah.
So he's not here anymore, I would think, but I just wanted
He's
to
not.
like
I
clarify
booted
that,
him.
and I wanted
And
like,
this is part
back
of
you,
what, like,
Melissa, because
everybody should be at my level of anger. And the fact that we are being steamrolled by these corporations and lackadaisical politicians is because everybody's not at my level of rage, because everybody wants to sit around and PC talk each other and police each other's tone and language instead of what we need to be doing to stop the oppressive regime that is stripping our rights by the fucking second. But if we're all tone policing and over here chatting with each other about is cutting down a camera violence, get the fuck out of here. Honestly. Like,
well, it's like,
and to be clear to anybody else who might be confused on it, the quote, it was in quotes, was from Glenn, was, "We won't advocate violence, but we'll laugh at the right violence." No, we won't advocate any violence. We're not laughing at violence.
No one
It is not
advocated
violent to protect your neighbors and yourself and your right to privacy that you are guaranteed by the Constitution by not being fucking surveilled all the time. You did not opt in also on your original subscriptions and services in terms of agreements with any of these providers, specifically Ring, without notice of terms of service change like that. They're risking their own fucking lawsuit. So Melissa's 100% right. And I put this out the other day too, was history is the reason we are where we are right now in history is because so many men have told women to tone it down when the moment demanded that we turn it up. And we need to stop being afraid to say the truth and pushing back and correcting ourselves, yes, but not just throwing out random ass fucking quotes. And then when you get called out going in all caps, no one said that dingbat. I take that personally to an offensive to my friend.
I mean, I did call people pussy, so I'm going to own that as well.
But that's that's an anatomy part you can talk about. I call people penises and testicles all the time, but you're coming, it was warranted. And I'm sorry that y'all, if anybody feels like that wasn't, to me, it is the violence that is being perpetrated right now is violence against your rights and your privacies and the people that are in your neighborhoods and the people that live near you and the people who aren't fucking doing anything. Violence is being ripped out of your home in the middle of the night by fucking Black Hawk repelling ICE agents in a Chicago apartment building and being a child and having to hide under a bed or be hidden in somebody else's house. Violence is attacking a woman and making her have to be dragged back to a state because she decided to get an abortion somewhere else. So no, I don't fucking buy the idea that protecting our rights and protecting the people around us in non-violent ways is violent. Like
Yeah.
Those
literally
cameras,
dumb as
Flock
shit.
use those cameras to send and uses those cameras every day to send the information to ICE so that ICE can go out and perpetrate violence upon people, including children. So if
Yeah.
you
Yes.
think my suggestion of cutting down a camera that causes that is violent,
Hypothetical. It's a
we
hypothetical.
inherently do not agree, like on the
Hypothetical option.
definition of violence. We don't.
Yeah.
Because I
And
don't
we're
think cutting
also,
down an inanimate object is violence. That's totally bonkers to me. Totally.
yeah. And we're also not advocating. We are hypothetically speaking of these are how people resist in places. It is seen in other countries when surveillance comes into neighborhoods that people actively do not agree with, they cut them down. They get rid of the surveillance. They put bags over them by getting the state or the city to say this needs to happen. And then they do. And then the company decides to go around the town by removing the bags. It's not violent to enforce the rule that says they should and cannot be there. That's not
Right.
violence. That is
There's-
But I've been
enforcing and upholding the rule of law.
I think part of my energy comes from like people like me, Nick, and Shane have been covering this shit for 10 months now. We've been reading every single executive order. We've been watching, and then we turn around, we get off Substack and we go out in the world and we just watch most Americans act like nothing's going on. But yet at the same time, so many of those same people will say, "Oh gosh, what's going to happen?" Bro, nobody's coming to save us. We have to save us. So if we want to just keep having hypothetical conversations while we wait for Superman or Batman to show up, like, hello, we got to wake up. We have to wake
Yeah.
up. That's what I'm saying, is that there's not enough anger from the American people at what's being done to us. Full stop.
I agree. And I think that,
Do
there's,
you want to launch us into space a little bit, Shane?
I have one
and
last thought,
boil
and then I
our-
was gonna
Yes.
say
and get our blood
it's time to get the
pressures down?
fuck off of Earth because it sucks here right now. But I have one last thought, in regards to all of this. And the reality is that in a country where you have a system of checks and balances and an existing constitution that is to exist to ensure certain rights, but when the enforcement bodies of that constitution laid out by that constitution, specifically the entities that interpret that constitution and the legality of that constitution, what falls under the protection of that constitution, and the bodies that are supposed to hold those people accountable. When a system like that fails, and you look hard at a government that has been laid out in a certain way, you find that in some of these systems, you have there is a lack of redundancy past a certain point, where the actual system itself lacks a oh fuck button in a glass case where there's nothing to hit once X, Y, and Z are no longer viable. And there's this kind of idea of in some cases, the kind of unwritten clause, the open-ended clause where it's like what's necessary to maintain the rights
The
of
fabric of
people
our
in
union.
this country, and the values of what that stands for. And in those cases, advocating for something that a social contract would be like, as something like property, right? Well, damaging any property is against the social contract of the law. When the law is not being universally applied, to apply that harshly to yourself to protect an oppressor within that system is entirely counterproductive. You have to be able, and you cannot be rigid in a time where the system is fluid, because to maintain rigid, like, even if you want to take this to a military, like a military example, a team in combat, in an operation that is static, that doesn't adapt to an ongoing situation, doesn't react to things, but plays only by certain laid out like protocols, is going to fail in a operation where you have unknowns with a flexible enemy. The same applies here in this story, where you have a country that is going through all of these similar things. The population itself, if they remain static, if they remain within a box, if they box themselves, I'm not saying that this country should take up pitchforks and torches and go and hurt people in this situation, but they need to be flexible in their options, and realizing that, they have to be able to operate flexibly within the framework they're in. Otherwise, they are going to fall victim to that system that's been built around them on the framework that they were previously following. So with all of that said, that's just food for thought, especially when you're talking about something like, I don't know, spray painting a camera so that it can't watch, somebody, like saying, oh, that's destruction of property. What if everyone in this country went out and, got a can of spray paint and spray painted every single one of these cameras with a ski mask on in this hypothetical situation, who knows? Like, maybe that would be something where it's like look at the Berlin Wall, look at all of these things, look at history. You think these people just were like, yeah, well, it'll work itself out eventually? It's not how that goes. And they had to be flexible, and they had to be dynamic, and they had to advocate where they could, when they could. And we need to keep that in mind when looking at situations like this country that I'm kind of describing here that could exist. So with that said, this country that could exist, let's go talk about something that does exist that we don't know a whole lot about. And that thing is Neptune. Let's go to space.
Not just space, but Neptune. Today, we're going to do a little show and tell. Let me get something. I'm going to show the intro to this video.
I love this guy, by the way. This, if you awesome. Like space, this is the premier space YouTube channel. But his voice is also chef's kiss.
And we won't share tons and tons of time of this just for copyright reasons, so that we don't get any violations. But I'm going to share a small segment of the intro just so everybody gets to see. And then we're going to jump to a spot that Shane wanted to get into, which is Triton versus Pluto. And so I hope you all enjoy a little bit of change in pace, like we always do, to get away from the politics at the end of it and reground your mind by going somewhere else. So enjoy a little bit about Neptune first, and then we're going to see some cool stuff. This is really neat.
If you were to look up into a clear night sky with your naked eye, what planets would you see? Technically, if conditions were right and you had very good eyesight, you would be able to see all of them at one time or another. All of them, apart from Neptune. It is the smallest of the icy giants, and also the furthest away. It's a wonder we found it at all. And it is a place of wonders. Ginormous storms that rise and fall, super fast winds that are almost supersonic, icy rings, and enigmatic moons hinting at a violent past. Of all the planets, it's the one we know the least about. But
Yeesh. I've had so many freaking phone calls today from people I don't know. Just by the way, if you ever get phone calls from phone numbers that you don't recognize, don't answer them. You have no obligation, thinking about privacy. You have no obligation to answer a phone call if you don't know who that caller is, and don't convince yourself that you have to answer those phone calls, because you don't. And if they don't leave a voicemail, then they're not worth calling back. Anyway, that interrupted for a second in our Neptune video, but I want to leave it there for before we skip to the first part, is we know the least about it. And this is so cool that we're starting to find more about Neptune and all of the shit that's around us. And like last week, Shane and I talked about how they fucking found signs of life on Mars, organic life form, like creation on Mars, very, very small, microscopic, like single cell, very, very old and dead and deceased. They found the residue that could prove life truly did exist on Mars at one point.
They couldn't find a better explanation. That's the best way they put it. It's like science is about disproving your theory, right? So like to be the most accurate, you want to prove that you're wrong. They could not prove that based on the information they had that it was likely to be anything other than an organic process that created this evidence, which is huge.
Yeah. And so now we're starting to get more information because the Voyager 2 mission has gone by Neptune and our other
JWST.
missions. Yeah, and the JWST is taking really incredible photographs and imagery of the of Neptune. So first, let's look at some new after a quick advertisement.
Growing a startup is tough.
Skip that.
Aurora do exist on Neptune too, but they are different from what you might expect, as they are extremely faint due
CGI
to
where it
particles
says
not
GI
getting as charge from the sun, and because of the direction of the magnetosphere, they are mainly Type B aurora, or SAR arcs. Earth gets these too, but they are not visible and you need scientific instruments to know that they are there. They could be stretching across the whole sky without you actually knowing about it. Another difference with the SAR arcs of Neptune is that they are not only found around the poles, but rather are around the mid-latitudes of the planet. However, although they are faint, we recently were able to capture images of them thanks to the powerful near-infrared detection of the James Webb Space Telescope. In March of 2025, Webb released these shimmering images of Neptune's mid-latitude aurorae.
So cool.
Look at that.
So
they get
cool.
auroras on Neptune.
So
That's cool. I can't even see the aurora here in Arkansas, but you can see it on Neptune.
Like all over it.
Yeah, and it's like on top
Wow.
of that, like you can't see it. Like you could see every planet except Neptune. Like Neptune is so far away. I believe it's 13 years. I think they said it would take 13 years for 12 or 13 years to get a spacecraft to Neptune. Like, and it's really hard to get there. The orbit of we haven't even seen an entire orbit of Neptune since its discovery. It takes that long. And it's like I want to say it's 140 something years. It's so long it takes for any of these things to happen, that we've been able to observe these things. And it's like just
165 years.
Huh?
165 years.
There you go. Yep. Crazy. Insanity.
Yeah. And so this is the next part. This is where Shane really wanted to get to, was Triton, which is one of the moons of Neptune. And it shares some characteristics with Pluto that Shane thought were really cool and wanted to share. And I thought they were really cool too. So we're going to share them, because why not?
Mentioned that Triton shares similar characteristics with Pluto. What exactly does that entail? Well, they both have a predominantly nitrogen ice surface with other ices mixed in, like water and carbon dioxide. It has quite a flat terrain. Its topography never varies by more than a kilometer. Although Voyager 2 did see ridges and troughs, plateaus, and ice plains. What you may find unusual though, is that it has very little in the way of craters, This implies its surface is very young and is constantly being renewed. Like Pluto, it also has some reddish patches, which is thought to be methane having reacted to UV light from the sun, producing what is known as tholins, an organic compound that has a supposedly tar-like consistency. While organic compounds do not mean life is present there, organic compounds are the basic chemicals from which life forms. Life likely couldn't exist on the surface of Triton anyway, as it's far too cold and the sun far too dim to support any life form that we can imagine. But what's interesting is what could be found under Triton's crust. Under Triton's surface is thought to be a rocky and metallic.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. That's really cool to think that they're considering that the Triton has a much more rich and deep, or they're now considering how rich and deep the cross-section of a moon like Triton would actually be, and like what that might mean. Because possible ocean, but silicate mantle and metallic core means polar fields and magnetic fields, and plus with the organic compounds, obviously life wouldn't be able to survive there that we know of on the surface, but what about in an ocean?
Yeah, there's some more context I can add to this. Specifically, Triton is unique because Triton is suspected to be a captured object, which means that it wasn't formed by any sort of collision or anything like that when Neptune had some sort of catastrophic event that would have created any of these other moons. So, no, Neptune acquired Triton, and the idea is that it was likely one of basically a massive planetoid similar to Pluto, right? That was out there floating, and it came close enough to Neptune that Neptune was able to capture it. And it has an irregular orbit. That's one of the reasons they think that it was captured, because unlike the other orbits, it kind of goes in like a circle around at a different angle. But what's important about this, and this is something they've discovered a lot, not just here on Triton, but the likelihood that there's subterranean oceans on almost every planet that is somewhat rocky, all of these moons, Europa, Triton, any of these is actually very high. And what we know is that if you have a metallic core, a silicate mantle, you have a very high chance for geothermal activity. If you have geothermal activity, we know that life can form and can ideally form in conditions around geothermal vents. We have so many examples of that here on Earth. So the reality is that we have a subterranean ocean on Earth. Like we know that we do. There's one on Mars. A lot of the water gets stripped from the atmosphere of these planets via whatever, depending on their magnetic field and whatnot. But what's interesting is that you do have subterranean oceans everywhere, and that water might not be that rare. And there's probably an entire, like again, it's like in terms of likelihood, it would make more sense to me that when you have conditions like this everywhere, that you probably have all kinds of crazy life that as of right now, there's absolutely no way we're going to be able to see this or verify this because of just how far it would be. The best thing to do, and that's why I talk about the Europa Clipper a lot, because when these planets eject water from, geysers like Europa, and they can fly through that geyser and test that water, which is what the Clipper is going to do, that's going to be the best way to verify whether there's organic, material in these planets. But it's absolutely, stunning to me that, we're able to know something about something like Triton. Like we know about this Pluto-sized object orbiting the planet that you can't see with the naked eye, that they didn't even, know existed, that's so far away that they're able to derive the properties of that through, using technology and observation. And it's incredible that we know so little, and it's super awesome.
So here, as I shift us back into the better view, here's an interesting question on that: is like with Triton being a possible captured um, object. Um, what would you think of, or are there speculation that it is a captured object from Planet X, is what they call it, is that hyper, because there's a theorized real ninth
Earth
planet.
that's out.
Yeah, like super Jupiter, that's outside, that's on the very, very far edges of our solar system itself, and is at such a slow, irregular orbit that it's really is hard for us to figure out where it is. You think, are there any speculative ideas on where Triton came from as a captured object?
So I believe what we're talking about, and correct me if so out past Pluto is the Oort cloud.
Yeah.
So in the Oort cloud, you have all of these objects, and there's a lot of them. And one of the things is that, you probably have from the more chaotic time within the solar system where you have the planets forming, you're having these collisions. It's likely that there were some objects that were ejected into the outer areas of the solar system. And you see that the idea with this Planet X is that you have objects in the Oort cloud that can be observed that have irregular orbits, as if they're being pushed or pulled on by something that we cannot see. And it's important to note that Neptune itself is hard to see, that it was actually only found because someone noticed how it was interacting with other planets and other stellar bodies, and they could mathematically predict where Neptune would be if you looked with a strong enough microscope. And that's how they found it, because of the interactions with other bodies. So the idea is that if there is something out there that far, we would have a very hard time seeing it. And it's not that like we don't have the tools to see it. It's that where do you look to catch it at the right time? We're talking about Neptune having 100 and you said 65-year orbit, Nick. So
Yeah.
where do you look to capture this planet? And it's likely this is like, a dark world. It's like there's probably not much going on, but the idea in itself is that I think it's possible, but it's so hard to confirm that. We just don't know what's going on out there, and you would have to look at these objects that are out there in the Oort cloud that are around Pluto, and see, if these orbits, especially probably some of the far out planets, my guess would be if like you look at that orbit and you see a point where maybe it gets pulled or elongated, right? As if there's something else pulling on it. But, it's really hard even to capture the scale of our solar system in terms of size. And once you get out to the point where the light of the sun is so weak, and, if there's not a lot of ice on this planet or something that is reflective, this Planet X, there's not like a good chance that we'd see it. That's one of the things about like Neptune is it does have all these gases and ice and water and things in the atmosphere. So it is going to appear brighter. It's going to be more reflective. But I think I to say it's unlikely is just as valid that it is likely, because you have to interpret data, and I think anything is possible in a long-winded
answer. No, that's worth a good answer. I wanted a long-winded answer. So, but with that, let's return us back to make sure I get the right one here. Is return us back to Palantalk so that we can wrap up our show for today. And hopefully I didn't just crash everything out. Oh, that was weird. I don't know what just happened to my next screen. Anyway, we're going to throw up some captions here in QR codes so that everybody can get their word in here at the end, and do a self plug, because we want to make sure everybody grows. And as I shove a banner and backbone over Melissa's face there for a second, is first, come support the network. All three of us are collaborators here on the Banner and Backbone network. We work together all the time. I really value my two friends here and the work that they do, but also just the friendship and knowledge that they share, and self-awareness, and abilities to correct themselves and move on from mistakes. So first off, I want to say we may have overreacted a little bit ago in our heated moments, and someone has been unblocked from future conversations. However, I'm still going to say this is we cannot capture all the chat all the time, and it's hard if you are, say, being sarcastic and in a moment when passes by us and we can't see it. So be aware that in heated moments, we want to make sure that we are clear in our words and our language. And so I wanted to make sure that Glenn knew that we are not upset when it may have been an overreaction, but we also need accountability on both sides. Is take accountability that your words were wrong too, dude. I was wrong in calling you out for some of it, but you were also wrong. So with that, come join Banner and Backbone, grow with us, become part of our growing community where we learn and we fix ourselves and we move forward, and we move forward fast, but we don't break things. We move deliberately and we create things here. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to my friend, Melissa Corrigan. If you can sell yourself, tell people where they can find you, how they can support your work, and any exciting things that may be coming up for you in the next couple days.
Yes. So I want to just confirm with that Glenn reached out to me and he did not say that taking down a camera was violence. People subscribe to me for I was a sailor, my potty mouth came out. And so I will apologize for the words used, but not necessarily the message that I was conveying. So I will say that. So I love the chats and the conversations that we have in these chats. And I truly wish that Substack had a better way to capture these and make them a little more accessible to us as we're doing lives, because sometimes it like really flies on by. So I'm going to be in DC on Wednesday. On Wednesday, a large conglomerate of local DC organizations are beginning a sit-in. They are going to be surrounding the Capitol building and the White House. And in their words, it is going to be continuous nonviolent resistance until. And so if this goes as it seems that they are planning for it to go, I'm anticipating that this is going to be another Occupy type situation, which would explain a lot of the preparations that have gone on in DC, including the 8-foot barrier around the White House, the removal of food and water vendors from around that area. So I want to see, this is part of what supporting my work does. I have been an independent journalist for going on 20 years now, and something I covered Occupy for the Examiner because I want to be on the ground and I want to provide you the view through my eyes, through my camera lens, on the ground without a media spin. I'm not just going to take video of National Guard acting out or protesters acting out. I'm going to show you what it's actually like on the ground. So that's what I'm doing Wednesday. Quick trick up and back on the train just to put my feet on the ground as they kick off this sit-in and see what's actually going on. So if you want, I'll be going live probably around 11:30 with Banner and Backbone from the National Mall. So you can see this event kicks off at 11. So you'll see it as it unfolds.
Yeah, and we'll have information out. We're going to be doing this as part of and on top of our running show that we do every week with the Centered America guys, because they do a lot to get the message out, and this is a great way to continue getting that grassroots organization spread even further. So Melissa, thank you for stepping up to go and be a part of this, and two, being a part of it with us on Banner and Backbone so that we can get this information out to people and help support it. So keep an eye out too for other exciting news that may be coming out and you seeing us promote here in the near future on stuff. So continue with that. Follow along with Melissa, free or paid. Money helps. She's got like 10,000 kids, as Waj would say. But no, come support Melissa. She's awesome. And hand over here with you, my friend Shane. Sell yourself, my brother.
Yeah, so for all of you who have joined us for all of this time, you probably know I'm Shane, founder of the Firebrand Project, proud contributor to Banner and Backbone, good friends with Melissa and Nick here, and proud patriot, among many other things. But there is, so much that, we're trying to accomplish. My mission at the Firebrand Project has changed over time. And where I'm at right now is to provide information in a way that is not accessible through media in a lot of the avenues that we have. So my primary focus, among other things right now, is to bring you guys the Firebrand Report. It is a daily show where I give a real analysis of headlines, not just reporting the news. I'm not telling you what happened. I'm telling you why I think it's important. And I am trying to weave together the tapestry of what's going on in the best that I can, in an imperfect way, with what I have, my knowledge, and having months. I mean, like since the beginning of this regime, just constant observation and watching the chips fall. And I think I have a pretty solid grasp on what's going on and where these actions fall. So that's one of my primary focuses right now. The other is to, like Banner and Backbone, facilitate discussion between all kinds of different creators. One of the things that I love to do are my Firebrand United live streams, where I work with other creators and we have a targeted or organic conversation. I'm excited. I just got confirmation while we're sitting here that I will be going live on Wednesday with Zev Shalev to talk about some of the economic things that are going on in America and touch on that. So in place of the dialogue where I normally join John Oliver, he's unavailable this week. So I'll be doing something with Zev Shalev at that time. So I'm excited to announce that just now. But yeah, if you want to support, my work, I do the Firebrand Report every day at 2 p.m. Western, 5 p.m. Eastern. I highly recommend you come. It's an hour. I'll go over 3 things, sometimes 2 things. Today it's going to be 2 things because I'm covering Trump's 60-minute interview, and I want to give that a little bit more time. But I really put a lot of time, and that's where a lot of my effort goes throughout the day, is to deliver most I can in that particular show. With that said, I am super grateful to everyone who has come out and helped each and every one of us. So like, if you want to help keep us going, paid subscribers is by far one of the best ways to help us out. Keep doing this, because it is hard to bring you this kind of content. And there's a lot of mainstream media that's just not doing what Melissa does, what Nick does, and what I do. And they've settled for the status quo. And it's important more more than ever as patriots and Americans to make sure that we support people like Nick and Melissa who are doing the good work. and all the Banner and Backbone contributors. So that's a great way to help us out. And if you are able to do that and support these guys, please do. Myself last, I think they deserve most of the support. But, you know, I would say that if you can't do that, that's okay. I always say the most important thing you can do is become a free subscriber, engage with the content, like it, comment on it, restack it, share it via email to someone else. But more so than anything else, and if you want to truly embody the Firebrand spirit, you take this discussion today, you take it to the dinner table, you take it out to drinks with your friends, you take it to the bus station, the library, the grocery store, and you continue the conversation. That's the most powerful thing that you can do, more than anything else, is to take this conversation offline, because the only way we really change the world is by talking to each other. So thank you guys.
Thanks, man. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. And definitely subscribe to Shane. He's an incredible young man doing a lot of incredibly detailed and thorough and smart work. And I'm glad to work alongside him. So thanks, brother. And with that, I'm going to I unveiled it a little this morning, but for those on Banner and Backbone, y'all haven't seen it yet, is a new logo design that Stephanie Wilson has been helping put together for Sick of This Shit Publications. And I want to get some of y'all's feedback on today. So this is our new test logo.
Cool.
I'm really enjoying it. So come join me on my main logo, or my main publication, which is Sick of This Shit Publications. It's where I do my chronic illness discussions, and more focus on just general community building and community engagement with ourselves, and building a real online and open and accessible space for people to be seen and visible and not feel alone. And care about your mental health, as well as a mix of veteran issues in there, because I'm a vet and I get to talk about those issues. So come join me there. I'm doing a 50% off sale right now during November, and all the support helps, especially as we get closer to the holidays. It's going to be tough for everybody and tight for everybody. But think about us if you can. But like Shane also says, is free and paid. Free is the most powerful, because you help us get the word out, and then share, restack, like, forward emails, do all of the things to just build out your own sphere of influence, and just put it out there. Put it out to your sphere. And then, like I said, and like I showed at the beginning, support Banner and Backbone itself. Come become a free or paid subscriber with the network. We're doing some incredible stuff behind the scenes to get more things out for folks like Shane and Melissa on working on a show together, and getting them highlighted much more often, and a wider audience, and collaborating and building what you guys all seem to want, which is more of us and less of the mainstream, lamestream, corporate, fake fascist idiots who just want to ruin our lives. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us and being a part of today's Palantalk with myself, Nick Perro, with my good friend Shane Urich, and with our friend and colleague Melissa Corrigan. We will see you all again next week. Shane and I will be back every Monday, as always, at 1 p.m. Eastern for a new Palantalk. And look for us throughout the week on various shows on Banner and Backbone on our own platforms. And for our special on Wednesdays, Melissa gets into DC and we get to do some live reporting from on the ground for the sit-in. So thanks, everyone. Go do something. Go be actionable today. Engage with someone and share this message for everyone to hear. Thanks, y'all. See you again soon.